Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we're back again. And as promised for a while now, we're going to talk now about Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and I'm going to give now a list of the breakdown of what I consider to be the best episodes amongst the entire series. A series which I think overall was very solid with some truly exceptional moments and truly exceptional seasons throughout. So I'm going to give a specific kind of listing of what I consider to be the top stellar moments within the series. Now, to warn you, there will be spoilers here, so if you haven't seen all of the episodes, then I'd advise you probably to stop now, go back and make sure you've caught up with all of the entire series, and then come back and watch this review of the best episodes of the series. So I'm not going to go in any kind of chronological order. I'm just going to go over the notes I've made and in particular the episodes that I've outlined on here. So this is your warning now. So if you haven't again seen all the episodes, I advise you now to check out now, because I'm going to go into all the episodes and particular spoilers. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. So the beginning of the episodes from this list here I start off with is Cat and Mouse. Now this is from season 2 episode 16, and this involved Anakin facing off against General Trench, who was providing a blockade because they wanted to get supplies to people who were stranded on a planet. And this episode had great kind of action set pieces. It was one of those where it's set in space, so there's very much, if you like, a chess match, if you like, between Anakin and General Trench. Great animation, great action. And what was good about this episode, it showed again the dynamic, or the early dynamic, between Anakin and Obi-Wan, where Anakin was very much more disobedient. We have multiple scenes where Obi-Wan has a certain plan and he wants Anakin to focus more on getting the supplies to the people that are stranded on the planet, but Anakin wants to take on Trench, and there's this constant Anakin disobeying Obi-Wan. It's just very funny kind of moments on here, but it's just great music, great score. And again, it just shows Anakin, the risk taker, and how bold he is and how kind of forward thinking he is. And this would be a character trait going on later on in the season. So this was great action, great music, and one of, I think, the best episodes of season 2. The next episode we're going to is Arc Troopers, and that's from season 3. This was the second episode, and this was a terrific second episode of the season. I think it was actually better than the premiere episode that debuted before, and this involved Ventress and Grievous, and they were beginning an attack on the home planet of Camino. That's the home planet of the clones, and we had various spectacular battle scenes on here, including a good sequence where we saw an underwater attack when Obi-Wan realizes that the debris that was supposedly falling is actually the Separatists attacking, and we get great scenes, great action, great effects on here between Anakin and Ventress, and also we get the clones involved as they want to take out the Separatist attack on here. Just great animation, and I think this actually should have been the premiere, because I always believe a premiere episode should be the all action spectacular for the third season throughout on it. So great action, spectacular, and a great pace about it as well. The next episode we have is The Bounty, and this is from season 4 episode 20, and this involved Ventress joining the bounty hunters led by Boba Fett as they had to retrieve the cargo, but they find out that others are after it, and we basically get a kind of standoff against the new bounty team as they kind of fend off the people that are persisting to retrieve the cargo. And this was a great episode. I love the animation on here. I love the sequence where we're kind of on the train track, if you like, and the team, as I mentioned before, are fending off against all the people attacking them. Some great fight choreography on here, and this really continued the redemption arc, I think, of Ventress. If you go back to previous episodes, we had her originally being the apprentice of Count Dooku, and then we followed her as she wanted to get revenge, and her ongoing reuniting with the Night Sisters, and then later on the Night Sisters get attacked. So this was, again, just building Ventress as coming across as some sort of anti-hero, and she finds her place, she finds her purpose, and she makes a decision not to hand over the cargo. And it's just great animation, just great cinematic style on here, and I love the kind of visual style, particularly when you have that sequence where they attack the bounty team on the train. The next episode we have is The Box. This is from season 4, episode 17. And this continued the arc where Obi-Wan was going undercover as Hardeen, and together with Cad Bane and other warriors alike, they have to partake in a obstacle course. And this was to prove themselves worthy enough to carry out the plan set by Count Dooku to assassinate the senator. And this was a great episode on here. Again, I liked this arc of the season 4. Season 4 had kind of been a bit up and down, but this really picked up the pace with this arc on here, and really shows again the kind of skills and capabilities of Obi-Wan, and also the conflicts, because this arc later on concentrated on the fact that Anakin, who was kept in the dark about the whole undercover operation, later on realised who Obi-Wan was, so there's a kind of conflict there. And I love the camaraderie, or if you could call it that, between Cad Bane and the other warriors and Obi-Wan as well, because they don't trust Hardeen, and Dooku as well is suspicious of who he is. And it's just great. I love the visual take of all the different challenges that they face throughout on here, and some of the warriors make it, some of the warriors don't. I love the fact that they have to work together, and that Obi-Wan doesn't have to do everything on his own. Sometimes he's got to rely on other warriors alike. So it's just great action and great set pieces alike. One of my favourite episodes of season 4. We go on to the next episode, which is Counterattack, and this is from season 3, episode 19. And this is the arc where they have to go to various base to rescue a certain Jedi who's being kept hostage. And this is one of, I think, the best episodes of that arc, where we get great action, where we have Obi-Wan and and with Anakin and Ahsoka, who of course is stowed away on the mission, and they have to just search out the Citadel, and there's various kind of pitfalls and perils that they have to avoid. This is again, I think, the first meeting between Tarkin and Anakin, and it's got kind of foreshadowing the Emperor has favoured you a lot, you know, what we see Anakin will go to later on. So there's great back and forth on there. Tarkin doesn't initially trust Anakin, but later on sees the value or sees the worth in him. So just great animation and great music and great action as well, as they have to avoid all the pitfalls like on it. So great on here. Next we have Darkness on Umbara, and this is from season 4, episode 7. And this involves Anakin initially setting out with his platoon, but has to turn it over to the very aggressive General Krell. And this involved the arc where Rex and his platoon, if you like, were under the subterfuge of General Krell, who's got very different methods. And over the course of the 4-episode arc, they really question his way that he deals with things and his orders, and there's a kind of conflict between Rex, between being a loyal soldier and doing the right thing. And this episode in particular was brilliant, and I want to note out particularly an opening sequence where we see Anakin and Rex and the other platoon land on the planet, and they have to kind of infiltrate what's going on. And this is a great visual sequence. It's almost like a war sequence. There's very little music, and we see the platoon just go through the planet, and there's lots of laser fire and cannons firing everywhere. It's very much got that kind of Private Ryan, if you like, visual like everyone. It's very intense sequence on it, and I think that's a lot what makes it stand out on it. So very brilliant animation on here, and very, you know, full of very tense filled moments on here. And again, this is one of the most strongest arcs, I believe, of season 4. So again, Darkness on Umbara, a terrific episode on here. Very vivid warlike sequence at the beginning. So we go on to the concluding part of that arc, Carnage of Krell, and this was season 4, episode 10. And yes, this was involved now the point where General Krell had gone too far with his methods and his ideas, and the crew now, led by Wex, they have to make the difficult decision to really commit mutiny in many ways and take on General Krell. And we see how powerful he is, and he wields kind of double sabers. There's a great scene where he realizes that he's been found out, and he wields 2 lightsabers and he's fighting everybody, really emphasizing how powerful he is. And it's just terrific action, but also terrific story. Again, this really emphasizes how strong a character Rex was being made to within the series, and the difficult decisions that they had to make. And we get that conclusion when Rex actually declines from killing Krell, but the other soldiers decides to take the shot at him. And again, this was great context, because we had the 4 episodes to get a further understanding are pretty pushed into making that fateful decision. So just great episode, and again, this was those mature, stronger themes that progress more than what we see in the earlier season. So terrific episode. So we go on to the next episode, Massacre. This is again from season 4, again highlighting how strong that season was. Season 4, episode 19. This had been a further continuation from the season 3 arc, which I'll mention later on, where initially Assad Ventress had gone to assassinate Count Dooku. They had found and created Savage Opress with the Night Sisters. The assassination attempt had failed, and this episode now sees Assad Ventress retreating back to the Night Sisters, but now Count Dooku has assigned a massive armada led by General Grievous to basically take out Assad Ventress and all the Night Sisters involved. And this is a brilliant episode, fantastic, epic assault scenes, and you really empathise and sympathise with the Night Sisters as they put up a resistance initially, but eventually they find themselves completely outmatched. And of course, where this takes place on the Darth Maul planet, if you like, there's a very red and crimson contrast without all the action sequences, like, and they just strive because they primarily have bows and arrows, and of course the force led by General Grievous has a lot more technological and superior forces, and just to see the Night Sisters fighting and then breaking down and getting taken out, yeah, there's a real sense of sympathy and pathos about it all. And we see the Night Sisters again, they try some sort of new supernatural powers where they influence Count Dooku, and I think it's a kind of like a voodoo kind of spell where they're impaling him and destroying him, but Dooku won't call off the attack, and eventually the Night Sisters find themselves overwhelmed, and Ventress finds herself on her own. And again, as I mentioned previously with the mention of the bounty episode from this season as well, this began the overall redemption arc of Ventress, and again she veers away from being a villain and becomes more of an anti-hero that we can sympathise more with. So terrific episode, and I actually think again one of the great standout episodes of season 4. We continue again with season 4, and we go on to the finale episode, Revenge, and this continued the 2-part arc, which was a lot of hype around it because this is of course the return of Darth Maul. The previous episode, Brothers, saw Savage Opress rediscover the fact that Darth Maul was his brother, and he went on this quest. It was a very Savage Opress centric episode to find Darth Maul, and this episode was even better because we saw Darth Maul get reconstructed from the Night Sisters who survived the Battle of Massacre, and he gets these metal legs and he gets his lightsaber back, and we all know of course now that he wants to seek revenge for Obi-Wan, who of course killed him back in the Phantom Menace. And this was a terrific episode, very intense setup, great battle between Maul and Obi-Wan, and this was something that they would keep throughout the latter seasons of the show. And of course Assad Ventress continuing that redemption arc, as I mentioned before, she joins in on the act, and we get great fight choreography and sequences between her, Obi-Wan, and Savage Opress and Darth Maul. Just great finale, great episode. I love the scenes that we get when we see Maul and Obi-Wan reunite, and he's amidst all this fiery background. It's all fantastic, well animated throughout, fantastic episode. And we continue that kind of arc again in the premiere episode for season 5, Revival. Again, we see Maul and Opress continuing to re-establish themselves as a force, and they counter these space pirates. They take over the group of the pirates, and again this is Maul again wanting to entrap Obi-Wan, and he comes in together with another Jedi, and one Jedi gets killed, and we get a great fight sequence between Obi-Wan and Maul and Savage Opress. And again it shows how powerful and how skilled that Obi-Wan is, that he's able to take care or fight both of them on his own. I mentioned in the previous episode he needed the help of Ventress, but here he's really doing it on his own. And there was brilliant animation I can remember from this episode, and you really see the detail in terms of the facial expressions and the facial designs, and I think this was where you could identify how much more the animation of the show had enhanced and improved over time. And this was terrific on here, and we see here where Obi-Wan, I think he injures Savage Opress on here, and we see the two Sith brothers eventually on the run from the space pirates, and they manage to get away, and it's fantastic. And we see them emerge later on within the season. And I'll continue this theme on again because we have the next episode, Shades of Reason. This is season 5, episode 15, and this continues that theme again of Darth Maul continuing to work with the Death Watch to take over Mandalore, but this alliance doesn't last long because they double cross him, if you like. They want to rule Mandalore, and this culminates especially in a terrific stage duel between Darth Maul and Fizzfler, and this is where we see the kind of the dark saber effect, I think it's called, the black lightsaber or the dark saber that he wields. And this was a terrific fight scene where basically Darth Maul challenges his leadership and they duel together to find out who's really worthy, and brilliant fight sequence alike. We see him, he's using his flamethrower and he's using his jetpack. If Darth Maul's got his lightsaber, just terrific hand-to-hand combat and lightsaber battles on there. Really great, really fantastic. And again, this was the season really showing Darth Maul again how much of an emergence he was. Just brilliant way to kind of further this arc on here, and we continue that again with the next episode called The Lawless. And this is when, of course, Darth Maul, now having usurped Fizzfler to become the main leader of the Mandalore, he reinstated the Prime Minister, and he's kind of working his way in the background, ruling Mandalore. And this was a brilliant episode because we saw Obi-Wan come to the aid of Satine, who was killed in front of Obi-Wan when he's taken hostage. And again, this is the Clone Wars showing how brutal and violent it can be, and really not holding back in showing that any character can die, and really showing an intense amount of intent and showing how much, you know, lives can be costed. And you know, there's a real weight and a real emotion to this, and we see how far that Darth Maul is willing to go to really impact and gain revenge on Obi-Wan. And what was also very significant about this episode was that it showed that Darth Sidious was aware now of Maul's continued emergence, and he steps out into the fray, and he's worried about Darth Maul and Savage Opress becoming too much of a powerful force. And we get an amazing fight sequence between Darth Sidious and Savage Opress and Darth Maul. Brilliant choreography, brilliant animation, and it results in Darth Sidious killing Savage Opress. And we get that last scene where he uses his Force Lightning on Darth Maul, but indicates he won't kill him. He's going to use him for further purposes. And the only disappointment I felt from this episode was that it wasted Savage Opress. When we see him emerge in the middle of season 3, I thought they were building up to be the main antagonist of the show. And when Maul resurfaced within the later episodes of season 4, it really diminished Savage Opress, and he's kind of more the kind of puppet of Darth Maul, and he never really got his chance to shine, even though they were really building them up without season 3. So I just felt it was a bit of a waste between that character. He could have been a really big villain throughout the show, but he just was throwaway in the end, and they kind of doubled back and fell on what was tried and trusted with Darth Maul later on. So overall, those are my thoughts. Those are, if you like, the part 1 of what I deem to be the best episodes. There will be a part 2 and I will upload that later on within the show. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with my choices so far within the first part of this review? Or do you have other episodes that you feel I should have mentioned? Let me know in the comments below, and if need be, I can do maybe another revision of this video, and I can mention some of the episodes that you've mentioned through the comments. But those are my thoughts now, part 1 on what I deem to be the best episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There will be a second part, as I mentioned, coming up very shortly. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, please like and subscribe and help me to grow this channel. That's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.